This is an 8-man Return to Ravnica draft filmed on Wednesday, December 12th, 2012. So to start off the draft, we've got the first pack right out of the gate. You can see Druid's Deliverance. Of course, I flipped to the back, get rid of ad and land cards. Right up front, I've got Slaughter Games as the rare, Fencing Ace, Hellhole Flailer, Skyline Predator, Chorus of Might, Dead Reveler, Tristani's Judgment, Launch Party, Electrickery. Obviously, I can tell that this card is heavy in black and red, and white and green. The blue's okay in this pack, but nothing of incredible power or anything worth noting. Based on the power level of the green, black, and red, I just decided to go for one of the better creatures and slam the Hellhole Flailer. In this pack, Sewer Shambler, Call of the Conclave, Rogue's Passage, got an Is It Keyrune, the Bloodfray Giant, 4/3, Trample Unleash for 4. Also see a Launch Party. I'm hoping removal like Launch Party Wheels, as long as I get some good big creatures. In this pack, got Void Wielder, Selesnia's Sentry, the Rubbleback Rhino, Slitherhead, Tablet of the Guilds, Eyes in the Skies. Again, kind of got some strong green and black with a splash of red signals. Although white seems pretty open as well, specifically in Selesnya. Things like Common Bond, while aren't necessarily first picks, make it seem like the options are pretty open. At this point I'm trying to decide which route I want to go. I end up taking the Slitherhead, but I don't think that was the right pick. It's a very weak creature. I probably should have taken the Rubbleback Rhino, the Chorus of Might, or just gone into Selesnya and taken one of those options. In this pack, see Auger Spree, a Golgari Keyrune, a Corpsejack Menace, Dramatic Rescue, Rest in Peace, and some other mediocre cards. Auger Spree is what I'm really hoping, wheels, or what I'm hoping to get some of. It's pretty good removal. Giant Growth, Trestle Troll can be pretty annoying in the right deck, allowing you to build into your giant Golgari creatures. They regenerate, and its big butt really helps prevent them swinging in with their giant creatures. But I end up going with the Corpsejack Menace. He's a good 4/4 body anyways. For this next pack, you can see Aerial Predation, Skull Rend, Hussar Patrol, Explosive Impact, Mine Rot, Axebane Guardian, the Viashino, I forget his last name, but he's the looter. I end up going with Explosive Impact. It's great removal, it can finish a game off, that sort of thing. This pack, Druid's Deliverance, Electrickery, Pithing Needle, Skull Rend, Crosstown Courier, the Is It Guildgate, Treasured Find, Racecourse Fury. As you can see, black, red, and green are still pretty open. Obviously, people to my right, at least my immediate right, don't seem to be playing much of those. Electrickery and Treasured Find are the ones I immediately look at. The other cards in this hand. The Imp is okay if you have enough Golgari that you can splash heavy onto him. But by himself, he's pretty weak, so I tend to avoid him unless I have a game set up. So I take the Electrickery. On this, you've got Spawn of Rix Maadi, Cremate, Goblin Rally. Got Axebane Guardian, the Catacomb Slug that I refuse to play pretty much. I don't want to have to play that kind of card. That basically means my deck sucks. Also of note, Mizium Skin and Eyes in the Skies. I end up taking the Spawn of Rix Maadi. This pack, the Rakdos Shred-Freak, another Electrickery, another Slug. I've got the 1/1 Flyerbird you can sack to counter a spell unless its owner plays one. The Tavern Swindler, I think it's called, the another Hussar Patrol. In this, it's between the Shred-Freak and the Electrickery. The Shred-Freak I'm liking less and less over time. They're just games that unfortunately you plop it down on game 2 and it does nothing for you. You really need a card like Dynacharge or Teleportal to make a 2/1 body worth paying 2 for. It'd be quite different if you paid 1 mana for it. The haste, I guess, can matter in games where you're playing Rakdos and you're just trying to fill the board with cheap, fast creatures. But I think Electrickery might have been the better play. This pack, Tristani's Judgment, Slaughter Games. I'm looking over the text, to see if it's even playable. But in this format, it's not a great card. I've also got the Perilous Shade, I think it's called. Golgari Longlegs, Druid's Deliverance. As you can see, black is still pretty open. Take the Longlegs. Got the Keyrune, Rootborn Defenses. I'm surprised it's made it this far. Courses Accord, and Sewer Shambler. Sewer Shambler is probably my favorite. I was looking at the others to see if I was going to hate draft. Nothing but green and white in this. Selesnya Sentry, Eyes in the Skies, Chorus of Might, and Rubbleback Rhino. Rubbleback Rhino is obviously the biggest threat. The others are just tricks, so I go ahead and take that. This got the Aqua Steed, the Giant Worm, and a Golgari Keyrune, so I take the Keyrune. Then I've got a Skull Rend and a Mind Rot. M13 was a format I would have played Mind Rot, but I usually don't end up playing it in these, but I go ahead and play it anyways. And the last card is a Skull Rend, so it kind of helps that they were kind of a mix of cards. So if I decide to play Skull Rend or Mind Rot, I now have both. Go to the back of the pack, take out the land and the token, and as you can see, I've got the giant Rakdos card. It's the same one that comes in the guild pack or the intro pack for Rakdos. He's gigantic. This pack is pretty solid overall. Got a Teleportal, Explosive Impact, Axebane Guardian, the Trained Caracal, I think it's called. Another Rubbleback Rhino, another Trestle Troll, Aerial Predation. It's pretty obvious that I'm taking the giant Rakdos Bomb. He just wins games. He's got First Strike and Haste and Unleash, and he's just insane value. This pack, Sewer Shambler, Gorehouse Chainwalker, the Gate Creeper Vine, got the giant spider that for some reason is a 5/5, which is a very... other than the Sentinel Spider from M13, you kind of get used to spiders that have giant butts, not equal power and toughness. And then this spider has Trample, which is also very strange. But, it's a weird set. I end up taking the Sewer Shambler. In games that they're playing or splashing a swamp, he can win you games. His low-cost scavenge is pretty decent, especially if you end up playing cards like the Dagger Dome Imp. It's just a great target. This pack, Deviant Glee, Auger Spree, Avenging Arrow, Drudge Beetle, Doorkeeper, I forget the name of the Lobber Crew, that's it. Cremate. It's pretty obvious I'm going to go for the removal or the Deviant Glee. Removal of my colors anyway, Auger Spree. So I end up going that route. Theoretically, like if you've got a giant bomb, Auger Spree can just be used to pump up your own creature, maybe for the win, just depending on what the opponent has or if they have any kind of response, You don't want them to also have an Auger Spree so that they end up killing the creature that you're hoping to win with. So for this next pack, got quite a bit of crap, at least at the beginning. Courses Accord, Horned Collar Chant, and I end up taking the Horror, but looking over the games, I think this was a mistake. Unfortunately, it's hard for him to work in the right situation. This pack, quite a bit better. Golgari Longlegs, Explosive Impact, got a Rakdos Guild Gate. I end up taking the Dreadbore. It's just straight removal, which is great in this set. This pack has a Rakdos Charm, probably the only thing in these colors that I would have taken. Could have taken the Transguild Promenade for mana fixing, but I'm primarily 2 colors with a splash of a third, which isn't hard in this set. So I go ahead and take the Rakdos Charm. It's it's a potential win condition. It's an okay. It's not my favorite charm, at least in limited, but it's decent. In this, I've got Deviant Glee, Vassal Soul. I would only take Vassal Soul, you know, obviously, as a hate if there was nothing else in this pack, but obviously Deviant Glee is just strictly better. As you can see, I also got an Axebane Stag, an Avenging Error, the Monitor, and a Trestle Troll. I end up taking the Trestle Troll. He's just a game staller if you need it. Blood Crypt, and nothing else, pretty much. Horncaller's Chant, Swift Justice, Stealer of Secrets. Blood Crypt just fits my deck, and it just happens to be the best card. Mind Rot, Rubbleback Rhino. I just go ahead and take another Rubbleback Rhino. He's pretty awesome. Cobble Brute, Goblin Electromancer, Pursuit of Flight, the Izzet Guildgate, and another Drain Pipe Vermin. I don't play the Vermin at all, so go ahead and take the Cobble Brute if I need another win condition. Deviant Glee, go ahead and slam another one of those guys. Horncaller's Chant or cancel, I just go ahead and take the Horncaller's Chant and a Drain Pipe Vermin, and my last card being an Inaction Injunction. That takes us to the third and final pack. Take out the token. As you can see, I pull a Jace. Unfortunately, I'm in red, green, and black, so there's no way I can play or splash for a double blue Jace. And we rare redraft in our draft, so even if I play with Jace, it doesn't mean I'm going to keep him. So I decided to look at the rest of the pack, as I'm probably not going to play Jace at this point. Launch Party, you know, another Deviant Glee. I end up taking Launch Party. It's just the best card in that pack for me. Rites of Reaping, a Foil Cobble Brute, Dynacharge, Sundering Growth, Goblin Electromancer, Downsize, Explosive Impact. Got another Dagger Drone Imp. The Stonefare Crocodile, which is pretty awesome. I really enjoy playing it. It's got the lifelink in case you need it. I go ahead and take the Explosive Impact, hoping that the Stonefare might wheel, depending on what else is in these packs. Got the Rakdos Riot Ringleader, I think it's called. Horrible card. I would never play it. 6 for a 3/1 first strike with a potential upside. No thanks. So it's between the Launch Party and the Rakdos Keyrune. Rakdos Keyrune is one of my favorites because it becomes a 3/1 first strike. But it also helps me accelerate, and it's a minor bit of mana fixing. Since I already have the Golgari Keyrune, it kind of rounds it off, and that's what I end up going with. So, in this Electrickery, got another Cobble Brute, a Stab Wound, which is awesome. Got the Ultimate Price, destroy target monocolored creature. Other cards of note: Hussar Patrol, Stealer of Secrets, Course of Might. This is a hard decision, but I end up going with a Stab Wound just because I've won so many games off of that card, just putting it on one of their big-butted creatures or an unleashed creatures. It's amazing on, since they can't block anyways. This I end up taking a Splatter Thug, a great card. This pack, Annihilating Fire, another Monitor, Aerial Predation, the Minotaur, which is like a giant 6/2 first strike haste. In this, I end up taking the Annihilating Fire. It's direct removal, it's instant speed, all that stuff. Thrill Kill Assassin, Rakdos Shred-Freak. I end up taking the Thrill Kill. It's a good mix with what I already have. Another Annihilating Fire in this pack. Giant Growth, Dryad Militant, Fall of the Gavel, the Perilous Shade. You know, I've got options of this. Because I already have removal, I go ahead and take the Giant Growth. It's a potential win. It's trick removal. This pack, got the Grim Roustabout, which I end up taking. He's not great, but, you know, he's good depending on what kind of deck you play up against. And this, Dynacharge and Cobble Brute and Rites of Reaping are the only 3 cards that fit my colors. I end up taking the Rites of Reaping, even though I don't usually end up playing it. I just haven't found a lot of instances in which it is like, you know, does a ton of work for me. That I just take a Dispel, kind of hate draft a Dispel. This Paralyzing Grasp, another Rites of Reaping, and the Terrace Worm. Just go ahead and take the Rites of Reaping. Axebane Stag, and last pack's Stragglers. And that brings us to my deck, which, as you can see on screen, is mostly Rakdos with a splash of Golgari, and it's pretty solid. But that takes us to game 1. I'm playing against Steven. I won the mulligan, or I won the roll, so I go first and play a forest and a Slitherhead. We both decide to keep our hands, neither of us mulligan. He plays a forest and passes back to me. And so I draw and play a mountain, swing yet again with the Slitherhead, whittling him down. He's now at 18. Then pass the turn to him. He plays a plains and passes right back to me. I play I attack yet again with Slitherhead, taking him to 17. Unfortunately don't have a third land. I have a Splatter Thug in my hand, so I'd love to have a land. He does hit his third land drop and plays a Centaur Healer, bringing him back up to 20. He then passes the turn. I draw into a land, and it just so happens to be my my third color, the swamp that I need in order to play certain cards, to activate lifelink on Stonefare Crocodile, that sort of thing. And now that he has a Centaur Healer, I have quite a few choices here. For Splatter Thug, for example, I have to unleash him in order to even, make it work with anything. His Centaur Healer is a 3/3, so obviously I need a 3/3 to go up against it. And luckily, Splatter Thug has first strike in that instance. I also have the Horror in my hand that he comes into play with counters based on how much opponents lost life this turn. He swings at me. I have no productive blocks, so I decide not to block with Slitherhead, so I take 3, and he passes. So I'm at 17, he's at 20. I play my 4th land, and I've got a couple of options here, because I actually have I have Launch Party in my hand, and obviously Slitherhead is a great target for Launch Party, because you get to kill something, and you get to benefit off of his 0 cost. Scavenge. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of Slitherhead. I don't even know if I should have played him in this deck, or if I should have drafted him. But I decided to, and I decided to go ahead and get rid of the Trestle Troll. It's an annoying creature, and Steven loses 2 life, go to 18. It's an annoying creature to face up against, Trestle Troll. So, and I swing in for 4. Because I scavenged Slitherhead to Splatter Thug, and so Steven loses another 4. Pass the turn back to Steven. He then decides to swing at me with the Centaur Healer, taking me down to 14 life. Then passes the turn back to me. It's pretty obvious with that much mana up, 4 mana in his kind of deck, he has something up, so... I go ahead and swing at him for 4, taking him down to 11. I go ahead and play a Sewer Shambler. Luckily, he has a swamp, so he actually has, my Swamp Walk actually gets off. He does an end of turn Common Bond, making a Centaur Healer a 5/5. Not that he needed it, but I think that's better as a combat trick. But he goes ahead and swings at me for 5, taking me down to 9. Then he taps out for a Rubbleback Rhino. Nice 3/4 big hexproof body. I've got my Splatter Thug, which is a 4/4 first strike unleashed right now, so in the Swamp Walk. So I'm not worried about swinging in, because unless he's got any tricks, he's tapped out. So he goes ahead and takes it and goes to 5. I then pay 3 for the Cryptborn Horror, which is now a 6/6. Luckily, I was able to get it off. What I found is Cryptborn Horror is sometimes hard to cast, just because it's, depending on the board states, it's hard to get in damage. I also cast a Grim Roustabout, not unleashed, to use as a chump blocker, and pass back the turn to him. So at this point, I've got a 4/4, a 2/1 Swamp Walk, the 6/6 Trample Cryptborn Horror, and the 1/1 Regenerate Grim Roustabout. Steven casts an Azorius Arrestor. I don't think he actually pointed at something specific, unless he mentioned it was the Cryptborn Horror. But I go ahead and swing in with the Sewer Shambler, and taking him down to 3 life. And then pay 4 for the Bloodfray Giant. The Giant 4/3 trample, and I do not unleash, so I can also use that as a blocker if needed. And it's still a big body, so, you know, when I need to get him over the top. But based on our board states and the fact that I can win next turn, he concedes. And that takes us to game 2. Steven decides to play first. And, you know, some of the initial round, we don't have... he plays another Guildgate, and he doesn't have a 1-drop. I didn't have a 1-drop. I don't have a 2-drop, so I pass back to him. As you can see in my hand, I've got some other land and a Splatter Thug. It puts a little less pressure on me if he's not playing a drop. So he does Call of the Conclave, though, representing his 2-drop, and gets a 3/3. So I go ahead and play my Splatter Thug. Unleashed, it doesn't make sense to have a 2/2 up against a 3/3 when that's not a profitable block anyways. Unfortunately, that just puts him ahead of the clock against me. But, you know, you just see how it plays out. He swings at me, I go down to 17. He then pays 3 for a Trestle Troll. Again, not the best matchup to have against a Splatter Thug, because I really got to get rid of that. So, unfortunately, I'm not really happy to Auger Spree a Trestle Troll, but I kind of have to. I can't lose this race because of that stupid troll. I hate it sometimes. I like playing it. I just, you know, hate playing against it, especially if I'm aggro like Rakdos. So we're both at 17. He swings, taking me down to 14.
That's another thing, like
he then plays another land and pays 5 for a Golgari Longlegs, and passes the turn. I pay 1 for Slitherhead. I don't really have any tricks or, you know, a productive attack here, so I pass back the turn. Unfortunately, I missed another land drop.
Yeah, I saw that shit. It was awesome.
He pays 3 for the Dredge Mangler. Huge swing for him. I take 6 total, taking me down to 8. And obviously chump block the Slitherhead. He's not doing much on the board anyways. And he Azorius Arresters my Splatter Thug, which is fantastic. Passing the turn. I go ahead and play a Swamp and concede. Unfortunately, I just can't survive the next attack. Takes us to game 3. I go ahead and play a Mountain and pass. Forest and pass. You know, some of that early turn awesomeness where nothing happens. There really aren't a lot of 1-drops in this set that are worth playing. Rakdos Cackler would have been a great addition to my deck. Unfortunately, I wasn't past one. So he does another Call of the Conclave. So another early Centaur, which is something I don't like to see when you're playing against a Selesnya deck, because they have so many populate cards. The sooner that they have a Centaurs, the sooner that you get beat down with repetitive Centaurs. So I don't have a play yet, so I go down to 17. He plays the Selesnya Guildmage. I forget the specific name, but he can either create a Centaur for 6 or populate for 4. Not good to see. And I play a Bloodfray Giant Unleashed. Unfortunately, it's just, if I were to trade, he'd still have a creature, and he could, if he plays a land, he could populate in response, you know, to my block. It's just not good on my end. He goes ahead and swings for 5, go down to 12, and he passes the turn. It's a good thing he missed his land then. It's just so easy to get swarmed with populate if they have it. I play a Blood Crypt tapped. I don't have anything to play for 5, so he goes ahead and plays Druid Deliverance in response to my attack, which is exactly what I feared. He can populate, and he prevented 5 damage just now, so that is not good. And I go ahead and pay 1 for Slitherhead again. He's a good chump blocker, but he's not really much else. Fortunately, I didn't have a lot of good drafts, so a lot of good cards to draft. I go ahead and chump and take 5, going to 7. And it looks like Steven missed another land drop. Go ahead and swing for 5. Taking him to 15. I kind of forgot to scavenge the Slitherhead ahead of time, but because unfortunately that would have made my guy bigger. But I just tell him I'm going to go ahead and do it on the Cryptborn Horror, making him a 6/6. The misplay is that both of them could have been 6/6s essentially. He goes ahead and avenging arrows my my Bloodfray Giant, you know, leaving me with just a 6/6. The only good thing is unless he kills my Cryptborn Horror, he really doesn't have a productive attacks, especially with his Guild Mage, so he goes ahead and passes back the turn. He finally has 4 lands in play, unfortunately, which means he can start to get off populate. I tell, you know, unfortunately I have to use an explosive impact. I can't really afford to have his Guild Mage on the board with that populate ability, especially when he starts to have the land. I mean, he could win with that card alone. Well, that card and, you know, something to populate with.
Basically, these guys bounce off each other.
He goes up, heads and plays a Sluiceway Scorpion and passes back the turn. And I draw and pass. Pays 2 for a Grim Roustabout, not unleashed. And he pays another 2 for a Drudge Beetle. As you can see, he's kind of filling the board, which makes this pretty rough on me when I'm drawing things that aren't creatures. Play a Thrill Kill Assassin, and I decide to go ahead and play a Deviant Glee on the Thrill Kill Assassin, which, to be honest, I don't think it makes a huge difference. He's a 3/3 Death Touch. He can block because he doesn't have a counter. But that might have been a better, at least a win condition on the Cryptborn Horror. He swings in with just a Centaur token. I decide to trade. Unfortunately, that's the 2-for-1 on my side. He still has much better board presence. I just can't really afford to take the damage at this point. And he plays a Trestle Troll and passes. And unfortunately, I have nothing good. He goes ahead and Druid's Deliverance, which he had gotten from his graveyard earlier. There you go. And yeah, he's got a winning number. I tell him that I can Annihilating Fire one of his tokens, but unfortunately, that gets him the game. And I go on to round 2. And that takes us to round 2. I'm playing against Aaron. He's a relatively new player. He hasn't drafted very much, and he hasn't played Magic in all in quite a while. So right off the gate, I play Blood Crypt. He plays Izzet Guildgate. I don't have a 2-drop, but you know, as you can see, I can tell he's probably playing Izzet or maybe splashing Izzet for certain cards. He goes ahead and plays a Goblin Electromancer. So I can tell, yeah, he's probably playing Izzet, as that's not a card people would normally splash for. But he has a better board presence at the moment. But then I go ahead and play a Hellhole Flailer, Unleashed. So a 4/3, can't block. And I can pay 4 to sack him and throw him directly at a face, which I've noticed can not necessarily, I mean, I guess it can potentially win a game, but it more or less just helps swing it in your direction if he was going to die anyways. He swings at me with the Goblin Electromancer after playing a Gorehouse Chainwalker Unleashed. So he's a 3/2, can't block. I go ahead and play a 4th land, swing for 4, taking him to 16. I'm at 18. I then pay 4 for a Corpsejack Menace. It's one of the cards I was splashing Golgari for. It has pretty good synergy. Obviously, it would be better if he was in play before the Hellhole Flailer, but I top decked the Corpsejack Menace, and but he's just a 4/4 body for 4 if nothing else. So he's pretty highly playable. His upside is just awesome. So I go ahead and swing with both. He decides to use Electrickery and block with the Goblin Electromancer to 2 for 1 to trade for the Hellhole Flailer and take the other 4, taking him down to 12. I then play 5 for a Golgari Longlegs and pass.
You've got to be fucking kidding me.
He plays an island and passes back. He has a discussion. He was making sure it wasn't advisable to swing in. And I was like, no, I would have blocked with the Golgari Longlegs. I go ahead and Auger Spree his Gorehouse Chainwalker and swing for 9, taking him down to 3. He draws a card and goes ahead and concedes the first game as he just drew lands. That takes us to game 2. He decides to play first. Yet another Is It Guildgate, Blood Crypt. You know, same turn 1 drops as last game. He plays a mountain and a Goblin Electromancer. So this game is looking very similar. I play a Swamp and pass. I don't have a turn 1 drop. As you can see in my hand, though, I do have other lands. So I do have follow-up plays. He goes ahead and swings, taking me down to 18. He played a Gutter Snipe as well, which means all of those instants that most Izzet decks run, you know, do me damage as well. I play a Splatter Thug Unleashed and pass back the turn. Yeah, I found Gutter Snipe in the right deck. Him alone can almost win you the game just because of all the direct damage spells that you can run in those types of decks, or even just certain types of Rakdos decks. He swings for 4, taking me down to 14, and passes back the turn. He played that weird that when you play an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn, and untap it. I play a Deviant Glee, making my Splatter Thug a 5/4 first strike, can't block, swing and taking him down to 15, and pass back the turn. He goes ahead and swings with both. I go ahead and Auger Spree the Gutter Snipe. As I said earlier, I kind of want that out of the way. I don't want to lose to other instants or sorceries that potentially kill my creatures, but then also kill me because of Gutter Snipe's effect. Play a land and swing with that. He decides to chump. I don't activate the trample because I have a follow-up play of a Golgari Longlegs. I'm trying to get, you know, sort of a winning board presence and pass. He passes the turn back to me, and
I ran into Chad the other day. He's the first one I've seen from over there that was like, "Hey man, back over here."
I go ahead and Dreadbore, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Dreadbore to clear his board there, and go ahead and swing for 10. He plays the, I forget the name of the spell, but he basically, it's the weaker version of downsize, so he only takes 7, or he only goes to 7. I then also play a Sewer Shambler, which the Swamp Wonk is irrelevant. But then I also play Carnival Hellstead and Unleash, so he's now a 6/5 first strike haste. And I swing with the team, which is, you know, far more than lethal. And he looks through his hand, basically says he has nothing, and concedes. And that takes me into round 3. I am 1-1. Round 3 is against Nick. We've played many times before. He's a frequent drafter with us. Looks like he's playing Rakdos, at least the Guildgate as well. So, and he also plays a Golgari Guildgate and passes back. So this should be interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily a mirror matchup yet, but obviously we're in the same colors. He plays a Daggerdome Imp and passes. And I have a Slitherhead. So an interesting battle of 1/1s. I swing for 1, taking him down to 19. Then I also pay 3 for a Hellhole Flailer, and I do Unleash. So he's currently a 4/3. And pass back the turn. The lifelink on Daggerdome Imp is pretty annoying, as he hits me for 1, taking him to 20, and then he also plays an Axebane Guardian, the 0/3 defender that can tap for mana. I then play a 4th land, and swing just with a Hellhole Flailer. He doesn't want to give up the Guardian, so it takes him down to 16. I then pay 3 to Stab Wound. Stab Wound is great on defenders like him because he's now just a 0/1 that's going to lose him 2 life every turn. So he went down to 14, attacked me, taking me down to 18, lifelink to go up to 15. He then plays Desecration Demon because of the mana off of that guy. So yeah, he's got a pretty big 6/6 flyer that I have to think about or take care of. Luckily, I top deck a Dreadbore, so I go ahead and kill that guy right away, as I don't really want to lose to a giant 6/6 flyer. I then swing for 5, taking him down to 10, and pass back the turn. He takes another 2 off of Stab Wound, taking him to 8. Stab Wound is the kind of card, it really can win you games in the right instances. He swings for the lifelink, taking me down to 17 and 9. He then launch parties to get rid of my Hellhole Flailer, taking me down to 15. Since he doesn't want to lose life off of the Axebane Guardian anyways. I then play the Carnival Hellstead Unleashed, taking him down to 2. As that haste, I can really attack right away. And he concedes, he draws into crap, knows he can't win, or can't prevent from losing, taking us to game 2. He decides to play first. Neither of us has a turn 2 play. That's why I think our decks aren't quite as aggro as some Rakdos decks can be. He goes ahead and plays a Splatter Thug Unleashed and passes the turn back to me. I go ahead and Stab Wound. This is another great instance for Stab Wound, is on an Unleashed creature, because then he can swing, but in this case he's just a 1/1, so he's I'm gonna do him more damage every turn than he's gonna do me. So he goes to 18 and I go to 19. I then play a Sewer Shambler and play Deviant Glee onto it. But he goes ahead and just reveals that he's going to Auger Spree it. So unfortunately, I get a 1 for 2'd. But he does go to 16. I go to 18 next turn, off of Stab Wound and him attacking respectively. I play a 5th land and pass, taking him to 14. Swings at me. I go to 17. He has a follow-up play with a Daggerdome Imp. That lifelink will help kind of swing the Stab Wound in his direction. I then play a land and pass. He goes to 12. And he then decides to swing with both. I go ahead and Auger Spree the... I Auger Spree his Daggerdome Imp, but he launch parties his own creature because he wants to get rid of the Stab Wound. I don't take any damage, but because the way launch party's worded, its controller loses 2 life, so he also loses 2 life. He just didn't want to take it repeatedly, so he goes down to 10 because of launch party, and I don't lose any damage. He just forgot to tap his mana for launch party right away, so I remind him, and he does. I then pay 5 for Golgari Longlegs and pass back the turn.
I hadn't seen the Stab Wound in like 4 or 5 drafts until this. No, it's amazing.
He passes the turn back to me. I swing at him for 5, taking him down to 5. I then pay 6 to explosive impact him for the rest of the 5.